Yeah, it's quite disempowering, actually, when, the decision is being made for you that this is too risky for whatever reason, and you don't quite understand sort of why, because I think everybody in everyday life, to a certain degree takes risks, as long as it can be, I'm not doing something that's going to kill me, with the right level of support, maybe with a bit of additional support and something, but be supported to do it, rather than being told, no, you cannot do that. As I said, it's taken away your voice totally then, or your opinions, or to take risks in certain situations is a good thing, sort of challenges you to do something new or something different. But as I say, for the caregiver or your family member or whoever to just offer that bit of support, it's like a child, climbing over things and pulling over, they have to be allowed to do that. Yes, they could fall, and yes, they could smash their knee or whatever, but you make it as safe as you possibly can, but you allow them to explore as well.
My lad was born with glaucoma, which meant it took his eyesight. But our whole policy throughout, I mean, he's 40 years old now, but our whole policy has been that if he wants to do something, then we'll encourage him to do it and back him up, and to make sure that the right safety precautions are in place to let him do it. And a good example was he decided he was going to do a skydive, and when he told my mother about it, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, and as far as they were concerned, we should be wrapping him in cotton wool. And I said, well, why can't he? With everything there. And I mean, this is not very PC, actually. She said, for a start, how will he know when he reaches the ground? And I said, well, when the guide dog lead goes slack, he knows he's landed. And she didn't think that was very funny, but that was our whole approach to, I mean, he wouldn't be doing it with a guide dog, but our whole approach was, no, don't sit him in the corner. Don't stop him doing these things. Let him do those things, but we'll just make sure that the things, and that's the same policy that we've applied to my dementia. And in fact, they've actively encouraged me. And when it came around to birthdays and Christmas, they bought me, a hovercraft driving day and a Segway experience in the woods and gliding and helicopter. They bought me those. And then there was one that we did buy, which was a zoom up the River Thames in London on a highly inflatable thing. And we were going to go for it, but the people that organised it said, no, they didn't think it was very safe for me to do it. So we accepted that. But you've got to allow them to do it. And I remember you saying, Alison, around cooking, that you said that, you didn't want people to say, Alison, you can't do that anymore. What you wanted them was just to be standing alongside you.
It's partly, though, linked to decision making, isn't it? Around the person being empowered to make the decision and then supported to carry it through. And that decision not being made for them necessarily. I think that's important in any kind of risk issue. And also, so far, quite understandably, we've spoken about physical risk, but in the past, we've also spoken about emotional and psychological risk. And of course, being deprived of the opportunity to do things which are physically demanding or physically challenging does have a psychological and emotional impact. But also there is the situation where there's no physical risk, but there is an emotional and psychological risk. My suggestion is that that's as prevalent as the other kind of risk, but is much more difficult sometimes to detect or to avoid in cases, because we've all, I'm sure, if we're going to be really honest with ourselves, we've all at some point taken responsibility for things and issues which we perhaps shouldn't have done, because we wanted the best interest, we thought the best interest of the other person has been to our fore, but they might not have been.
Something that my mum said, it was actually a piece of work we're doing about what older people in Hampshire wanted out of life. So it wasn't just about dementia, it's about older people in general. And a lot of it was about this thing about keep us doing the things we want to do. And we were looking for a strapline, and Mum came up with a phrase which was, there's no point in keeping us alive if we don't have a life. And I think everything that you guys have said, it's that thing. And when we look back on our life, if someone said to you, what are the 3 proudest things you've done in your life? Sitting in an armchair doing a jigsaw puzzle or something like that is not going to be one of those things. It's going to be the skydive or the driving a tank or whatever it was that Chris has been doing. You know, those are the things that light him up when he's remembering, you know, and that's for any of us. So I'm not saying everyone should be doing skydives and things, but we should stop being too worried about them.
The risk should always be there. If you don't have risk in your life, then life really loses an awful lot of its attraction, really,
I
doesn't
think
it?
so.
Because there's again, it goes back to looking forward to things, doesn't it? And if you've enjoyed doing something and then that's taken away from you, then that's another step in the wrong direction, isn't it?